The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday. Another week in the Riv.
And it's a nice, cool Monday.
That's right. But that will change tomorrow.
I know. Tomorrow, going back to the
we're going back to the hot and humids tomorrow.
Yeah. But hey, it was a pretty cool weekend, though. I mean,
it was. It was.
Did you get to the show here on campus?
No, I was busy. I'm still engaged in a heated battle with underground yellow jacket nest in my yard.
Oh, okay.
That goes down about 20 feet. So it's like I was kind of busy this weekend between that and a few other things. But
well, fighting yellow jackets is not an easy task.
Oh, I'll tell you, they are, and they're relentless too. They're very aggressive and very relentless, But hey, we got a whole bunch of stuff here that, well, of course, I don't even know where to start.
Well, I'm going to start with these announcements about street closures.
Oh, yeah.
Because those are important. Right now, people, South Main Street is closed as of today at Bradford Avenue and Middle Street. It's going to be closed starting today until approximately September 28th, which is the end of the month. Due to ongoing sewer and drainage work on Middle Street, the Department of Community Utilities is announcing additional road closures. A section of South Main Street and Middle Street to Bradford Avenue will be closed beginning September 10th until approximately September 28th. Department asks motorists to seek alternate routes or follow posted detour signs.
Again, government's total inability to think progressively on anything and have any kind of... How many people out there, all raise your hands, a lot of people will raise their hands out there in our audience, how many people have had your street dug up again after they paved it? And they didn't do the work while they were digging it up in the first place to pave it. Well, I'm looking at this and I find that I look at the irony of this when I see Middle Street and South Main. That's where the CSO project took place.
Right, and that's actually what they're working on still.
Yeah, yeah, again.
Again, yes.
So why didn't we make sure everything was done right and everything that had to be done?
Done right? You want it done right the first time?
Yeah, done right the first time and say, well, look at these pipes. We might have to do this. We might have to do that. Well, do it now. Do it. Actually, labor was cheaper, parts were cheaper, everything, because that was many, many years ago. But again, your government doesn't give a damn about anything, because if it costs more, who cares? They're not paying. You are. I am. The taxpayer's paying. They don't care. We pay it directly or indirectly, whether it's to a private contractor that has to be paid or what. But we end up paying for everything.
We always end up paying for it.
So, when I saw that South Main in the area, because I remember I was still working at the time. I remember having to negotiate around that CSO project at the South End for a long time, for years.
Well, they had to do more work there because of the flooding of St. Anne's Hospital. Ever since the CSO project, they started flooding. I mean, even now, St. Anne's Hospital ER gets flooded.
Yeah.
So I see them out there with water pumps when it rains.
Which is an indication of what the engineering on a CSO project wasn't right.
Exactly.
So, again, another taxpayer paying for the incompetence of people who are getting paid big dollars.
It's a government job,
it's
right?
It's a government job. Well, that's it. That's the, when they say, what do you think the reason is? You've got a ubiquitous answer. It's always there. It always applies. It's a government job.
That's right.
That's it.
And we got another closure.
Yep.
Overnight lane closures on I-95. It may not affect a lot of people during rush hour, but in Somerset, the Massachusetts Department of Transportation announced there will be an overnight lane closure on Interstate 95 westbound and eastbound beginning at 7 p.m. on Sunday and continuing each night through October. These closures are necessary to allow for nighttime cleaning and painting operations beneath the Wilbur Avenue Route 103 bridge over I-195. Multiple lane closures are necessary, as I said, to facilitate the temporary use of large pieces of construction equipment. The work will begin above I-95 westbound and progress to the eastbound lanes. The work is scheduled to occur overnight from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Sunday through Thursday, and 9 to 7 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Boy, they're working 7 days a week on this job.
Well, it doesn't make any difference. It's deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra once said. I look at this and I say, well, it's going to be a real small job if they're going to complete it, because how long did it take them to paint the Braga? 20 years?
Yeah, exactly.
Was it about 20 years it took them to paint the Braga Bridge? So another government, again, the famous reason, government job.
It's a government job.
Government job.
Well, we're going to talk trash, but not Fall River's trash.
You got to love it.
Not Fall River's trash. We're going to talk New Bedford's trash.
Yeah.
And remember, New Bedford privatized their trash.
Yep.
ABC has been handling their trash hauling, but ABC wants to renegotiate the recyclables because the market isn't there anymore, and it's costing a lot more. It's costing more money to get rid of recyclables than it is to get rid of municipal solid waste. It's cheaper to get rid of trash than it is to get rid of recyclables, and they're saying that it's going to bankrupt them. And New Bedford wants to hold them to the contract, but ABC wants to get out of the contract, so they're going to be in court. When is that going to happen to us? Because we're
already paying more than everybody else anyway. So yeah. So who knows? But you're right, and that's a dangerous. You see, but it shows something. Remember, we always said they entered into a contract, and you can always try to get out of it. Now, here's ABC going to court to try to. They duly negotiated a contract. You would normally say that contracts are binding. In all, but there are extenuating circumstances here. They may or may not prevail, but at least they're taking a shot.
Exactly.
Why? Because this is a private business, and they don't want to go bankrupt. If it was a governmental agency, like we entered into the contract, we'll never ever try to renegotiate a contract for the benefit of the taxpayers. We'll just keep gouging the taxpayers.
That's it.
You see, therein lies the rub. Therein lies for you people out there that just still can't grasp how badly the government is screwing you all the time, because they don't care how much they take out of your wallet.
But in this case, Mayor Mitchell in New Bedford saying, oh no, I'm trying to save the taxpayers money, because if we have to pay more money to get rid of, because they're talking about $10 million more to get rid of the recyclables.
Yeah, at the cost of a business going out of business.
And that's the thing. And that's exactly what they say in the article, is that we give tips to everybody, $10 million tips.
Yeah, exactly. But this is government again.
Right.
No, he's not going to save him any money, because they're going to have to make a deal. They'll ultimately make a deal, because the reality is that the taxpayers, they keep telling the taxpayers, oh, we're bringing this business in. You give them a 10-year TIF. Do we gain anything? No. We got, what, 12 employees at Amazon. They got they got zillions of dollars in aid. They give aid to the greatest example has been resurrected again across the line in Rhode Island, 38 studios.
Yep.
They're finally wrapping up their bankruptcy issue, and what are they getting? What are they getting? Pennies on the dollar for the investment of the state. And this is government at its finest. They, as Groucho Marx once said, what government does is create a problem where there is none, and then screw the entire operation up. That's what government does.
That's right.
And Groucho was right. I hate to say it, but here's another example. But private companies have to try to actually operate efficiently. The government is the exact opposite of private industry. The more inefficient they are, the more money they all make. They all get pay raises, and the taxpayers just keep paying. And here we are, a classic example of that, because they're going to, the private entity is trying to save their livelihood, save their checks, where our government never has to worry about saving any money, because they just go, hey, we screwed this up. we didn't maintain it. We're going to build another building. Let's get a debt exclusion. Let's get into their wallets again. There's another $1.50 left in their bank account. Let's get that.
Let's take $1.75.
Yeah, let's take $1.75. Let's make them remortgage their house to pay their real estate taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's interesting is New Bedford renewed they had a 10-year contract with a 5-year period where they could renew or get out of the contract. We don't have that in Fall River. We have a 10-year contract and we're stuck with it. There is no out at 5 years. But they just renewed at the 5-year mark. They renewed for another 5 years at the same rate, and now a year later or 2 years later, they need to renegotiate this recycling thing. We're in the same position in Fall River. We're locked into our contract, though, for 10 years.
Yeah.
For 10 years. And the problem is, when ABC's contract was done right, and I'm not saying because I like ABC or anything, their contract was done right. It was all inclusive, tipping fees, recycling fees, everything was included in the contract. Here it is, boom, that's it. The Fall River contract only covers the manpower. The tipping fees and the recycling fees, we still got to pay. There's a problem with that. That's not privatizing.
Yeah, well,
it's his public-private partnerships again.
Yeah, that which is basically a fiscal, not physical, fiscal impossibility.
Exactly.
Because as we see what's happening in New Bedford, they have two different perspectives. Private entities cannot enter into the public sector because the public sector doesn't care about costs. Private sectors do. Here's a contract entered into, a very good contract that was, as you said, totally thorough. It dealt with the entire concept of trash, tipping fees, everything. It was all inclusive.
Right.
They dealt with it, but businesses that are in the private sector still have to deal with the dynamics of the market. Now the market shifted. Now they realize that, look, we can't, this is going to run, we're going to be out of business, and then we're going to be out on the street where the public sector never cares about that. They go, okay, let's just bond some more, increase our taxes, increase our fees, and rape and pillage the taxpayer again, and we don't care. I mean, it's just as they used to say in Germany, "Macht's nix." It doesn't make any difference,
Yeah. Well, I have private trash hauling. I don't use the city's trash hauling, and my rates go up. They've gone up almost every year for the past couple of years, because again, the cost of handling trash has gone up. It's gone up, and if it's gone up just for me at the single family or the single home type of situation, imagine what it does for the entire city. Now, New Bedford has a plus. New Bedford still has a landfill. So the large items, they don't charge New Bedford residents for large item pickups. Sofas, refrigerators, all that, because they still got a landfill. But that landfill is only good for a couple of more years, and they know it. And they haven't even looked at that yet. If they're gonna do like Fall River did, they're gonna be in big trouble in a couple of years when they got to close that landfill.
I still think we should have made Mount Trashmore into a ski resort. Could have made some money on it,
Yeah, exactly. Or
like Yawgoo Valley, we could have Riv Valley.
Yeah. Hey, the snow doesn't necessarily have to come from the sky.
That's right. That's right.
This is Fall River.
We got a lot of snow jobs during political season, and it's election time, so we're getting plenty of snow. We're getting plenty of snow jobs now.
Exactly. So it's always interesting to see. But I'm wondering, what effect this may have in Fall River on our contracts. And what's going to happen. And the reason why it doesn't really affect our contract too much right now is because we pay the tipping fees. So if the rate goes up, we pay it.
Yeah.
So
but it will affect us because they're going to need the money.
Right.
So it means, guess what? More fees, more taxes, more things. They're going to talking about getting rid of the purple bags, which is another money we have to make up. So now with the cost of doing this business going up, and since we paid it, fundamentally all the mayor wanted to do was get rid of those people on the trash trucks.
That's it. He wanted to bust the union.
And it was a political move. He broke a union. 'Union. He broke a union. 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 He broke a union and we basically took everything else. We took it on the chin with the trucks. We sold the trucks that we're still paying for, and we're going to be paying for them for a while. We sold them. We sold them for pennies on the dollar.
Yep.
We got rid of people who were working for the city, and you could control, because let's face it, they work for the city. You could, if they weren't doing their job well, you could. You know, now you get a private entity, you give them basically trucks for almost free, and then you pay all the associated costs of trash removal. The only cost you don't get is the manpower cost. Boy, that's got to be one of the worst deals in the world. But you look at propaganda, the Jazel Goebbels factory over there made it look like that was the greatest maneuver in the history of the world. We're going to save tons, and we're not going to save any money. We're not saving money now. Even if the cost of trash removal isn't beginning to go up, the labor costs and everything else associated, in addition, not to the tipping fees and the recyclables and all that other stuff that goes along with total trash removal, we knew that by the end of that contract, and we talked about that on the show at length, CJ.
Yeah, we did.
We talked about it at length on this show, and talked about how projecting, 5, 8 years into this contract, we were going to be getting hammered.
Well, we get $1 million increase, it seems, every year.
Yeah.
Every year. So, I mean, you figure at the end of 10 years, that's another additional $9 million plus. And where are we saving money?
Yep, and we're not, and we know that, and we knew that, but again, the public allows themselves to be duped because they don't do their research, they don't listen to people who are telling them the truth, just as we told them with the debt override.
That's right.
We, not only did we tell them, and I can see a lot of our less than enthusiastic fans saying that these guys are, all they're doing is they're trying to muddy the water. Even though we had statistics to prove it, and and everything we normally always have, and if it's our opinion, we'll say it. But you had a city councilor, a man with extensive experience in budgeting and stuff, Sean Kadim, say we could have done it without a debt override, and guess what? They got their debt override. They lied their butts off. They misrepresented everything.
And then they got the teachers to do it too.
And they got it, and they got their debt override, and guess what? Then they admitted they didn't need it.
That's right. But they've got it.
But they got it, and now it's there, and you're going to pay extra.
And there's no guarantee. Remember, there's no guarantee. Like you said, we're hoping that after 8 years we're going to get rid of it. Yeah. When have you ever seen government get rid of anything where they're getting money?
That's right. Yeah.
That's a 30-year debt override, like it or not.
Let's that's one of the, now we can add that to the list of promises that people never keep, like the checks in the mail.
That's right.
And now we can say, the commuter rail's coming. And now we can add the debt override. That's going to end in 8 years. So don't hold your breath, people. Don't hold your breath.
Yep. Well, I guess the House Speaker took it on the chin this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we've been talking about this even before this article came out. It came out in the Boston Business Journal, and it was originally published by MassLive.com. A top Massachusetts union leader ripped House Speaker Robert DeLeo in front of a crowd of union members and state lawmakers, sharply voicing his unhappiness with his longtime Democrat and top legislative leader. Steve Tollman, the president of the state's AFL-CIO, who was also a state senator at one time.
Yeah. And, the thing that really is, well, we all know it. We know how that operation runs. It always has run. And unfortunately, until we begin to clear the swamp almost at every election, it's going to continue to be, that's a good old boys club. Boys and Girls Club.
And this year he took it right in the face because he already lost 2.
Yep, he lost his Ways and Means. Yeah, he lost his Ways and Means, and we talked about that on one of our shows.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, this is a labor leader ripping into him, justifiably so, about the deals they make. But this is also anti-business. What they did was anti-business because they talked about one of his Asked about Tollman's comments, DeLeo's spokeswoman, Catherine, pointed out to the grand bargain, that's in quotes, passed by lawmakers and signed into law. That, that gave, talk about the $15 minimum wage, which is over a bunch of period of time, and it'll be eaten up into nothing. And then most progressive family leave program in the nation. Well, guess what? That's really not business friendly, because you know how many small businesses are going to tank when they have to give paid leave and stuff to people? That's one of the problems. The problem is that everything you do that seems that they promote as something is going to hurt somebody, and in this case, it hurts the backbone of most communities, which are the small businesses. They can't afford. I mean, if you go to a major company and you can get, if you work at Google or one of these other giant companies or Apple, they may be able to give you a gym and give you, 6 months off for maternity leave and stuff like that. You're running a diner. Yeah, and you got to give somebody 3 months off or something like that would pay. I mean, this is ridiculous. But I think the most telling thing about this is the last line of this, when he said, because we've been talking about this for years.
Yep.
Quote, something's wrong in there when one person or two or three is controlling everything, unquote. That's true. The Speaker of the House is the most powerful person in the state of Massachusetts. Anybody who doesn't know that has got their head in the sand. You remember when they stopped the football stadium because Tommy Finneran didn't want it?
Right.
They stopped casino gambling for years, even though it would have brought jobs and money into the economy of this state. We're still dragging our feet getting it because of all the political machinations that go along with politicians getting their sticky, greedy, fingers in, and they don't care about the public. And look at I want everybody now, since we're on this, since it's an election, and I know that 2 out of 3 are running unopposed, but maybe for the next time, and we do have one contested election in a final. I want you to look at the voting record of our state representatives and state senators and see how often they have voted in favor of any recommendation from the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate. I would venture a guess that it's virtually never. I would be surprised if they took, between the 4 of them, if they ever took one vote that flew in the face of what the Speaker demanded. This is why we're looked upon as the place they would give the state an enema. They'd put it between the 2 cheeks, Fall River and New Bedford. That's where they put the enema tube. Whatever the medical name is, you probably know the medical name, CJ.
It's the enema tube.
All right, the enema tube. Okay, good guess. But this is why they look down on this state. We've sent reps up there for decades, and I don't think in the history of our state delegation anybody's ever opposed a sitting leader. Well, be it Senate or House.
And this is the longest-serving House Speaker in a long time. He's been serving since 2009. Yeah. That's 9 years.
Yeah, and he hasn't been indicted yet.
And he hasn't been indicted yet.
That's a minor miracle. That's a miracle. Just that fact he hasn't been indicted yet. I guess they're not looking close enough. but now they're talking about making deals with Charlie Baker. It's a great bipart. That's the way they that's the propaganda. Or they will fight tooth and nail. The parties hate each other like they do in Washington. Then all of a sudden, when they've got something that will give them make them better, give them more money, give them more power, all of a sudden, this is a wonderful bipartisan effort. We can get along with each other. Well, you're getting along by screwing the workers and screwing the small businesses. These deals are just, as the the head of the AFL-CIO said, they're just killing the people, and while they're murdering you by passing all these things that we have to subsidize, the working people, all these opioid programs and stuff and everything else they're doing, they're wrapping it in this facade of, look how wonderful this is. Look at the great job. We're helping you. We're helping you. Well, you know something? I hate to say it, but the fact is that some of these things, they're just over the top. And look, I was a union guy my whole life. But you gotta be reasonable. I mean, when you negotiate, we couldn't, as much as we tried to get pay raises like Boston and everybody else, we were told we couldn't do it because you couldn't afford it. But we know that the administrators get it because they're politically connected. But you look at these politicians, and they're giving away these feel-good programs and stuff, and they're applying them to businesses that they will actually break. They'll break the businesses because, look, if you're working in a diner, years ago they might even have sick leave now. They might give you a day or two of sick leave, but these people are trying to make a living too. They're not making a living. They don't have a $500 million profit at the end of the year. We're not talking about General Electric, who, by the way, is tanking now, who at one time was the biggest profit-making corporation. But you don't have these corporations, like I said, like Apple and stuff, where they have meditation lounges for their employee. Well, you want to work at Apple, go get a master's degree or a PhD in computer science or something, and maybe you can get a job. Maybe if you're a brain surgeon, you can have a fancy lounge to go rest in. But you know something? If you're working in a diner, first, the reality is that your job skills are not highly in demand, and you got to take what you can get. And also, the guy who's running that business isn't making a hell of a lot of money. So he probably, look, I'm sure everybody would like everybody to have all these things. But the reality is, I can't have a Lamborghini. I'd love to have a Lamborghini. I'd like to have an Autobahn where you could drive as fast as you want. I'd like to take my Lamborghini out and drive 180 miles an hour down the highway. But I can't do it because I can't afford a Lamborghini. A Lamborghini costs more than my house. Or at least what it's worth in Fall River. Because we have the worst
we spoke about that in the last show, the worst housing
but I
market.
mean, look, what you want and what you can afford. See, we all have to live in a world of pragmatism. Your roof is leaking, you're going to have to forego some creature comforts. You can't go out and maybe buy a new living room set, because you got to pay $10,000 to get a roof put on your house. And you just frankly can't afford it. You're a retiree living on less than $25,000 a year. You can't afford it. Well, guess what? Our legislators who live in that bubble up there and get their stipends and their pay raises while they're denying us tax holidays.
$100,000 pay raises.
That's right. They give it to everybody because they can say, oh, look how wonderful we are. We're taking care of these people. Well, yeah, and it would be wonderful if we could. But sometimes you have to have some fiscal prudence, and they don't. Because just like the city, when they spend money that they don't have and then bond us and tax us and fee us to death, you can't do some of these things. And DeLeo controls everything. So go and see what their voting records are. Go and see what their voting records are.
That would be interesting to see, for sure. But one of the things that was mentioned, well, we're out of time, actually. So
go ahead, mention it.
But one of the things that was mentioned was the fact that Sanchez's challenger was voted out because he was so close to the Speaker of the House. Well, Mike Rodrigues is so speaking to the President of the Senate.
And he's running unopposed.
And he's running unopposed.
That's why Fall River is the Riv. You don't clean the swamp.
And that's what we have to do. We have to definitely clean the swamp. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday. And remember, stay angry.